Okay, so someone was asking me questions, then personally attacking me and trying to shame me and tell me I'm a horrible person, all this stuff after they asked questions about church. The story of Zina Diantha Huntington and how they know that Joseph Smith did stuff with her and Brigham Young did too, probably. But I am a broken record, but I'll just keep saying it because it is the biggest hang up. And this is, I don't go into every single wife, or I've thought about doing it and I just didn't do it, of Joseph Smith, not a Brigham Young. Or my channel is mostly about a photo, right? But it's the Rosetta Stone, knowing what words mean, and then you can understand church history. Take it or leave it. Stay in the church or don't. I'm not going to try to sound like that therapist in Utah people are attacking right now that I love her music. But anyway, I would love it if people didn't leave, right? And I think a lot less people would leave if they just knew what words meant, because there isn't a person who hasn't freaked out and attacked the church and gotten so mad at me. And, I understand that it's such an emotional thing because you believe that all these people have been lying to you, and then I'm a liar, and then the church is lying, and I don't believe it. I don't agree. I don't think the church lied about any of this. Even Joseph Smith, I don't. I think he many times talked about it, even publicly. But I won't go into all that. But there's people like Meg Stout who've researched a whole lot more, at least every detail of these stories. Right at the same time that Brian C. Hales came out with this. But Brian C. Hales didn't even research this. It was someone else, and it's a lot of work to do that. But what is amazing, even though this person went and looked at all these records and helped him compile these books and did all the research for him, but he wrote it anyway, whatever. Too long of an intro. But of course justifiably they're upset to think that Brigham Young or Joseph Smith lived spiritual life free, is the accusation of John C. Bennett, which means a man will be with a woman who has another husband, or a woman is with pastor from guy to guy, right? So Zina Diantha Huntington is definitely a little bit weirder of a story, and I'm losing my voice, but I'll do this anyway. But I just kind of read through it on my break, and I'm like, I know what words mean. So when I read this, and there is a source, I do not agree with everything. What you would just call they can do their research, and then they put in their opinions. Sometimes Brian C. Hales says things I'm like, I read the same record and I don't agree. Or I think Emily Partridge had better grammar than that, because someone else that, just looking at it and looking at something typed, I think they just saw those words differently, and I looked at it and zoomed in, which is sort of like I was working today on my break as I'm like trying to research a little bit, but I never claim to know everything, but I believe I know the Rosetta Stone of understanding plural marriage according to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the 1840s. And it lines up and it makes sense because I have the other source of Joseph III asking Utahns, is this polygamy? No, it's celestial plural marriage. Okay, so if you're sealed for eternity, does that mean you're married? No, you're married when you're married. It's for the next life. Just verifying these words, and I'll go ahead and put in the link to that, but you can't find Memoirs of President Joseph Smith III online, right? And so, but it's a good source because he hated polygamy. But he is investigating, like he was studying to become a lawyer and a doctor, and then he just became the president of the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he wanted to defend his dad. I actually think he did an excellent job, and I don't think his work was for naught, even though I do think he was flawed in his conclusions. Joseph Smith III. Okay, you guys? Makes sense. But I think it's such a good thing they came from that opinion that he kept, but interviewed Utahns because it does defend his dad, but also defends the whole church. So it actually had some good, even though he was kind of being a jerk. This person today was not being very nice either. But it's okay to ask these questions. It's okay to research these things. And I can research something, look in original sources, and you might just still not believe me, and I don't care. Okay? Go live your life. Anyway, this quote of Zina. So she was one situation, like, I talk about the women that have a story of being a wife of Joseph Smith. She doesn't have one because she was only sealed for eternity to him. And that was just, this is her story, you know, with Joseph Smith. You know, and that's what most of them were. They really were. Emma even was telling to people that it was, oh, it's just eternity only. They aren't going to get married and have kids. It's just for the next life. And so she was heard by someone saying that. And so there were a lot of those. A lot. Which meant there was no time sealing, and they were not going to move in together or have babies or try to make babies or anything, because they're not married yet, because they're engaged to be married in the next life. That's what eternity only means. So she says this in here. So when you understand that, it's like the Rosetta Stone. You're like, oh, okay. But it was still a weird situation. Reading about this in Meg Stout's book, I was just like, oh, yeah, a lot of these are weird, but it didn't destroy me or upset me as much as it does other people. But I understood what words meant because she explained it and she researched it, because she didn't understand. She thought what this person thought that was arguing, and upset and mad, angry, and so mad and angry, and gonna yell at me and tell me I'm so bad, and don't you dare be sarcastic, and don't you just anyway. Just so critical of me and so critical of anyone that might just defend this church they think lied and ruined their life. And, you know, it is hard. People go on missions and they spend 2 years of their life or a year and a half if you're a girl. And then they're just so mad. They think they've been lied to. And I am very sorry. I have compassion for you if you feel and believe that. I just don't believe that you know what words mean. That person didn't today. Sorry, buddy, girl, whoever you are. However you identify yourself, I don't know, but they were not. They were trying to be as ambiguous with their name as possible. So they just says, this person's interrogating her. How does she find out about plural marriage? He talked to, this is the pattern, Joseph would talk to the closest male relative, like the father or a brother. And it was her brother. He did that a lot. And then they would say, okay, sort of like asking the hand in marriage. It wasn't as secret as people think. So the family knew, and then go talk to your sister and explain it so I don't scare her. Maybe you didn't have time. And I knew that it was of the Lord and received it, and Joseph had not come till afterward. Anyway, Joseph had told him everything. And trying to be sealed, you're taught about plural marriage. I told you the Lord revealed to Joseph Smith that he was to marry me. I received it from Joseph through my brother Bennett, and who was president at the time. Joseph taught you the doctrine of sealing besides yourself, my brother Bennett. Okay, so she's being asked about that. There we go. So this is the next part that's important. And so she did take on the last name Young. So she's basically, is it weird? It's strange and not perfect. You know, maybe like 3 husbands, sort of. But one was eternity only, right? But Brigham was probably just time. Is it a fact that you married Joseph Smith at the time? This is where it gets confusing, because you're saying married. What right do you have to ask questions? I was sealed. I was sealed. She's sort of correcting him. She's like, no, I was sealed for eternity. She would have said time and eternity if she was married. So wasn't married. She didn't move in and do stuff. It doesn't mean he didn't have time and eternity sealings of women. He did. But she was married. She had had a ceremony by John C. Bennett. Pause. And Joseph didn't show up, but he'd had a revelation. He was supposed to marry her and stop her from marrying this guy. And I'll show you what I found out about this guy that she married, Henry Jacobs. So is eternity only. And then I claim that you were not married for time, because that is important. That means you're married for eternity. She's denying that it was for time. I was married to Mr. Jacobs, but the marriage was unhappy and we parted. So they parted, divorced, whatever. In a lot of state situations, it was really hard for women to get a divorce. And I presume you were aware of the fact that is claimed by your church the marriage was not an agreeable one. That is true. And then Mrs. Young that Joseph was not married to you in the sense of being sealed for eternity, as his wife for a time in eternity. Ms. Young, you answered that question in two ways, for time and for time and eternity. I meant for eternity. So then she's like, correct it, because it's the Rosetta. It's important. It was a huge distinction. If it was eternity only, you're just kind of like, ceremony, see ya, bye. If things either it's a young girl that's 15, it's an eternity only sealing, and she gets a time sealing when she's in her 18th year of life, which would have been like 17, Lucy Walker's place, or she was married to a scumbag, which is what Meg Stout found. A lot of these situations, a lot of men, not sure that her husband, this guy was really total scumbag, but a lot of them were, you know, left the church, followed John C. Bennett, who lived spiritual wifery, all these things that people are so upset about and think Joseph and Brigham did, but it's the opposite when you understand what words mean. So I'm not going to read everything here, but here's Zina. Okay, and you can look her up. See, she did have 2 kids. So then she, even though she was sealed to Joseph Smith in 1841, she stayed. She didn't run away and she didn't have any children with Joseph Smith, right? It was eternity only. It was not time. So they were not married in mortality. Mortality, she was just married to him. But he had received revelation he was supposed to, and he put it off and he didn't listen. So because he's a prophet doesn't mean you're perfect. Prophet doesn't mean perfect, okay? But there seems to be evidence a lot of women left this guy. But, well, not a lot, but she wasn't the only one. But I'll just show you that in a second. But I can just kind of show you that here. So, because it was 1846, I'll go back. And that it might have first just been eternity only, or time. I haven't done much research on Brigham, but clearly at some point it was time, because this is the first time I'm looking at this. I just haven't researched. I just didn't care to before. Zina Diantha Young, is that a boy? Oh, it's a girl. Just one child, so she only had 3 children. So by 1850. Okay, but 1846, so it was 4 years after their ceremony. But her husband, first husband, oh, he was disfellowshipped. There you go. Disfellowshipped in 1851. I didn't see that this showed up before. So he did do something not good. I don't know what it was. I can research more and let you guys know. I do not have time to make this a long video, but as you see, in the same year, 1846, he's getting another wife, and another one in 1853, and another one later, but they did divorce in 1881. I'm thinking he might have been hard to live with. Kind of like, you know, if you see someone's been married, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, like Lori Vallow or other people, and if you see evidence those people are leaving them, they're the, you can just start playing Taylor Swift's "I'm the Problem" song. Something's wrong with them, and it could very well be mental health. If it's a woman or a guy, Lori Vallow's mental health was not okay. He might have had really bad mental health. But it seems like he wasn't living things right. So that was 1851. But he still went to Utah, California. This is interesting. But yeah, he was really definitely divorced. So 2 women did leave him, and then there were these other 2. She died. So did she stay with him? That was 1846. What happened to her? We can just find out. But I think the whole point of my channel is I'm an artist, singer, dancer, actress, and researcher, technically now, right? But 1846, that didn't work out. Okay. So it didn't work out with her. She died. She divorced. That's three. 1, 2, 3 women that left him and 1 died. So he ended up with nobody. So I think that's evidence that Joseph Smith might have been inspired to maybe save her from that marriage the day she got married, but it was awkward and weird, and he just wasn't perfect. But he received revelation he was supposed to take her as a plural wife and stop her from marrying this guy. But clearly, he had some problems, you guys. It dissolved with Zina. It dissolved with his Senna, because she married someone else. Okay, but people did get divorced. It doesn't mean you're living spiritual wifery or committing adultery. If you get divorced to leave someone, you know, the legal process of it was different and complicated, and sometimes there wasn't a paper trail, but it was dissolved as it was. So she left, she died. There it says divorced. So Sarah Taylor, go look at her. But I think the point of my channel is, like, don't be afraid to research things if you find good sources. And as I said, I don't just go here and rely on Brian C. Hills. I go, oh, there's a source. Can I find this? But I generally do trust him and trust his sources, because, you know, I am still active in the church and he's active in the church. But I'm sure if I wasn't and left, I probably wouldn't trust him. That's just how it is. You would probably more trust someone who has left. So this person just kept commenting over and over, obsessively, trying to be, are you active? Or are you not? I don't understand what's going on. I'm active in the church, and I plan to be, even though it is hard. Life is hard. There's a whole lot of other things that are hard besides church history. You know, but it was hard for me in 2017. But I just prayed and felt strongly I should research, but research more. And I had a lot of spiritual experiences. And, yeah. So that's what I found out as I am making this video. Like, you can find out a lot on Family Search. So, but clearly, I would not blame the person I did block you from commenting because you're being rude to me and trying to criticize me in every personal way possible. That's not okay. That's not how you get down to the bottom of something. Or, you know, I'm not the end-all be-all. I don't know everything, but I love to research. So thank you for sending me on a trail of researching something. Maybe this will help someone. But I don't want you commenting, especially if the video has nothing. If you're saying things that have nothing to do with the video I made, and you're just trying to, after I answer a question, you're just going to attack me personally. Like, how smart does that make you look? It doesn't make you look very smart. There are a lot of people that disagree, that are intellectual or just different religious beliefs, that can just talk and debate about facts without criticizing. It just shows that you don't have very much confidence in yourself when you start criticizing someone personally like that. It's just a stupid thing. It's just not a smart thing to do. You weren't stupid, but it doesn't make you look very smart. You know, but when you just need this person, that person, you don't know what the words mean. And that's what I say, 95% of the people that left the church don't have the Rosetta Stone of what polygamy was back then. You still might not be happy with it. But I think even Michelle Stone doesn't understand. But I'm never going to watch her channel. I haven't. I'm not going to attack her. I'm never going to go. I just watched one video and made a video that was very shortly about her slightly, and then about other things that I was more worried about, that I was just worried about other people. And yeah. So, but just from the few minutes, I definitely don't agree with her belief of agreeing with people that, yeah, the Handmaid's Tale belief that they were slaves, pleasure slaves, you know, of men in the Bible, and were that to a prophet and not really a wife. I think when you study church history and realize that was called spiritual wifery. And that was exactly like what happens in The Handmaid's Tale. And except in The Handmaid's Tale, it's more benign than spiritual wifery because they were trying to, you know, at least they were trying to make children. But a lot of women were, it was the 1800s, women were being killed with procedures to get rid of the children because they really were just for the pleasure of a guy. Like other women, the P word, that are used by Jeffrey Epstein's, like that 100% is what J.C. Bennett was. There were all the women that were witnesses of that. Their names were in the Nauvoo Neighbor, May 29th, 1844. And just because I know some dates, you guys, does not make me an autistic or a savant. There seemed to be a little bit of a debate about that. I've just spent 5 years, it's always this, hey, you know, if I've had like 500 people comment and I'm constantly pulling up the same source, it's the same 3 or 4 dates or same just explanation of stuff. So yeah, they were calling out someone that was doing awful things in Nauvoo. It starts with the word R. I don't mean to sound like I'm laughing. It's not funny, but yeah, there definitely were Jeffrey Epstein's in Nauvoo, but I don't believe it was Brigham Young or Joseph Smith. I just don't. But she's been a fixture. She is a fixture in church history, and I don't think her life was ruined. I think her life got a lot better when she was with Brigham Young. You know, she was Relief Society president, and she had 3 kids, but only one with Brigham Young, and there are quite a few pictures of her. I think her life was just financially well because he was very wealthy, but even though he had a lot of wives, she was valued, and I think it kind of could give hope, maybe. I don't know. You think back then it just was like, well, if he doesn't work out with this one guy, which clearly, again, you just look up Henry Bailey and see none of his 1, 2, 3, 4 wives, none of them stayed with him. One of them died, but that was not Brigham Young's fault. Okay. And Zina's life, I think, was blessed by being married to Brigham Young. I mean, he was, in our today's standard, he would have been a millionaire. And, you know, she had this little girl with Brigham Young, and, you know, here they all are in a mansion. I don't think polygamy was the worst thing in the world. I'm not like, bring it back, you know, but the church right now, you'll be excommunicated if you do it, so don't live it. And like I said in an interview last summer, if you're a guy, don't pressure your wife to think that she should want to live it so that she'll want to live it in the next life. That's not how it goes. If you're going to be excommunicated for it right now and we're not living it, you don't even need to you do not need to be planning for that, men. And don't get mad at your wife if she's not going to plan for it in the next life. You aren't there yet. Okay? And same thing if you're engaged. You're hearing all these stories. You know, I'm not. Yeah. So it's just. Yeah, I think that they all. Even that guy, he really looks like Brigham Young right there. Is that Brigham Young? No, this is those aren't the kids. Brigham Young College, Logan. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to stop. But, you know, you're not going to find out this stuff if you just hate the church and hate Family Search and hate all this stuff. But Family Search has a lot of information on there. Or Ancestry. You know, I spend a lot of time just looking at that. I like reading journals. I like reading biographies. I don't depend on Brian C. Hell's for my understanding of things, because there's a lot of things I don't agree with him about, but there's a lot of things I wouldn't know if it wasn't for Brian C. Hell's. You know, and he actually didn't do the research. It was this other guy, Bradley. It's escaping me. It should be right here at the top, but you can find his name. But, you know, he worked hard. He had left, the person who worked on this had left the church and came back. He looked at the original sources and found things were different than he knew. So, but Brian C. Hales did sort of find the Rosetta Stone, although he does not go into spiritual life. Like, it's one of those dark things, but I go there. Partly because some other women, things just really, it was that full circle. It was the full Rosetta Stone, understanding that that was evil and not supported, not lived. It was denounced by the church. So, evil, spiritual wifery, woman being passed from guy to guy. Woman's not living spiritual wifery. She gets divorced and leaves a guy. It happens a lot because a lot of guys are jerks. It happens. You go divorce your husband if he's beating the crap out of you. Go marry someone else. That's not bad. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say. And have a good day.